Shabbat Shalom, everyone. What a blessing it is to be together on this Shabbat.
They'll hear that in the live stream.
Wonderful. This Friday night is a special Shabbat where I promise I'm not yelling at you, but with you. It is called Shabbat Shuva, meaning a Shabbat of return. Shabbat Shuva is the Shabbat that falls in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And it is a special Shabbat not only because of its timing, but because there is liminal space of being, again, between life
She needs this.
repenting, and doing
Does she need this for the
cleansing
live stream?
and nourishing of our souls. And I realize that I sound more like I'm yelling, but I promise it's conviction.
For the live stream people.
Thank you. Oh, I still have to yell, though. Okay. So it is Shabbat Shuva, and it's, as I have mentioned before, it's no wonder that the microphones aren't working, because this is a very reflective time in our tradition, and things are a little screwy. Things are both healthy and also challenging. Reflecting into ourselves isn't always easy. It can sometimes be a little difficult to face the things that we don't do as well as we're hoping to do in the coming year. But by facing them, we can make our lives enriched and more fulfilled in the future. And with that, I really hope I'll have a voice for Yom Kippur. And we continue by welcoming Shabbat Shuva with the candle blessing on page 3. I invite you to please join me. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As the brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own way be among those who kindle light. And as we prepare to rise for the Chatzi Kaddish, I just want to bring to your attention that this evening's melodies might be slightly different because it is Shabbat Shuva. And Shabbat Shuva is unique in that we also include insertions that we see in our Siddur every week, but we don't get to say except for on this very special Shabbat. So I invite you to please rise for the Chatzi Kaddish.
Please turn to page 26. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah b'yom v'divrach hirutei b'yom lich mochuti b'chaychen u'vyom eichon u'v'chayei dichol beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imiru amen yehish mirabah mivarach le'olam olamei yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnosei v'yitarar v'yitarar shemei l'kudesha b'richu Leila uleila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbichata benechamata tamirin bi'ama b'immeru
Let us read together on the bottom of page 32. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Baruch Shem kivod malchuto, le'olam eved.
May be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך, וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We read together at the top of page 43. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Israel ve'al Yerushalayim. For the Amidah on page 46.
Adonai sifatei tiftach u'yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elokei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham ve'Elokei Yitzchak ve'Elokei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor וכותבנו בספר החיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה, רב להושיע מוריד הטל, מחלקי חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בגבורות, ומי דומה לך, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישוע. מי כמוך אב הרחמים, זוכה יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה לך חיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. Amen.
We read the bottom of page 50 with the added insertion, you are forever mighty Adonai, you give life to all, you rain dew upon us. You sustain life through love, giving life to all, through great compassion, supporting the fallen, healing the sick, freeing the captive, keeping faith with those who sleep in the dust. Who is like you, source of mighty acts? Who resembles you, a sovereign who takes and gives life, causing deliverance to spring up, and faithful giving life to all? Who is like you, compassionate God, who mercifully remembers your creatures for life? Blessed are you, Adonai, who gives life to all. Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hakol. We continue on page 52. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kdoshim b'chol yom yehalalucha selah. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Praised are you, Adonai, holy sovereign. Baruch atah Adonai, hamelech hakadosh. You may be seated. We continue on page 61. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, eternal one, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Israel bashalom.
ספר חיים, ברכה ושלום, ברכה ושלום ופרנסה טובה, נזכר וניחתך לפניך, וניחתך לפניך, אנחנו וכל עמך בית ישראל, לחיים טובים ולשלום. ברוך אתה אדוני, עושה השלום.
We pray silently.
נחמו, עמי אמר אלוהיכם, נחמו, נחמו, עמי אמר אלוהיכם, נחמו, נחמו, עמי אמר אלוהיכם, נחמו, נחמו, עמי אמר אלוהיכם. Comfort us in your wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle to take care of one another. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle with this world. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Omar Elohechem. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Omar Elohechem. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle to take care of one another. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle with this world. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Omar Elohechem. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami Yomar Elohechem.
Good evening, Shabbat Shalom. You can see we're scrambling tonight. I've got a lot of papers to manage here, so I'm going to stay back here, but I'll try to push my voice out a little bit. And I guess I need to use this for live stream. Glad to have you as well. So, yeah, that'd be great. So I'm sure that you can hear me as I push my voice out a little bit. Can you guys who are live streaming hear me? So this is, of course, a period of transition for ourselves as we move from one year into the next year. And as we move, ideally, from one sense of ourselves to, through reflection, a better version of ourselves. And many, many years ago, I gave a sermon on Yom Kippur. My theme was, one of the things we know about this Yom Kippur is there's going to be Yom Kippur next year. We're never going to be finished with the project, if I can put it this way, of continuing to engage in introspection and ask ourselves how we can do better and better. So this is a moment of transition for us. And perhaps you'll be interested to know that we're involved also in a period of transition of our Torah portion for this week and for the last portions of the Torah. And one of the fascinating things about these last chapters of the Torah of Deuteronomy is that the author is trying out, this is my language, different ways of concluding a text that in important ways is not a conclusion, because the narrative continues in the 6th book of the Bible. There's poetry, there is rhetoric, there is narrative, and so on, as the author is trying to figure out how to bring this first moment of transition to a close, paving the way for the next. Let me just point out the kinds of transitions that we find in our Torah portion. Moses is engaged, I suppose, in the most important and consequential transition of all. He's moving from 40 years of leadership in which he was having some very great highs and some extremely low lows leading this people. And as we know, Moses does not get to experience the climax of what I might call the arc of his vocation, as he doesn't have a chance to get into the promised land. And the Torah is also unclear about this too. There are at least 3 ways of understanding it: that Moses himself engaged in certain actions that require this kind of punishment. We might also think that Moses has a certain set of abilities, remarkable abilities, but he doesn't have the capacity to lead the people in battle. And so it's time for another, not only leader, but kind of leadership. Franz Kafka, in a note of his, in one of his letters, says that Moses dies because all of us die before we complete our to-do list. So Moses' death is neither as a result of limited capacity nor because he sinned, because his life is a human life. Joshua is also going to engage in a transition from being Moses' assistant to being the leader of the people as they go into the promised land. Joshua, I think it's fair to say, has the following job description: a military leader with a Torah in his hand. At the very beginning of the book of Joshua, it says to Joshua that you shall meditate on the Torah day and night. It's a transition for the people. The people, having been led, both willingly and unwillingly, have arrived at this moment when they are now about to cross the Jordan River and to be, in a way, a vanguard for the conquest and the settlement of the land. God is involved in a transition as well. God has engaged in guiding the people and has delivered from time to time, we might say, small conquests. He leads the people in beating some kings of this area, Sichon and Og. Now God is really going to have to contend with a much larger project of the conquest and the settlement of the land. So we move in this particular passage from a kind of fear, reluctance, and dread to the call to resolve. We read in verse 6 of our Torah portion, "Be strong and resolute, be not in fear or dread, for the Lord your God himself marches with you. He will not fail you, and he will not forsake you." So the people are encouraged to take hold of themselves and move into the future with resolve and with courage. So this is a moment of high and heady hopes, which to some degree are realized, but some degree are not. So if we move to the end of the conquest narrative in the book of Joshua, chapter 11, we read the following: "Thus Joshua conquered the whole country, just as the Lord had promised Moses. And Joshua assigned it to Israel to share according to their tribal divisions, and the land had rest from war." Transition into a new era fully realized. But when we get to the next book of the Bible, the book of Judges, which follows Joshua, we read the following in chapter 2. "Therefore I, God, have resolved not to drive the peoples out. They shall become your oppressors, and their God shall be a snare to you." The book of Joshua idealizes prospects, and the book of Judges brings this back down to earth, which I think is part of the structure of hope, that we can try hard to reach very high. And as I said in my Rosh Hashanah sermon, our reach shall exceed our grasp. And it's very, very important that that be the case. On the other hand, it's not unusual for exalted hopes to be met with reality. The book of Joshua exalts the hopes of the people. The book of Judges gives a significant dose of what really real is, so that the people can, both with realism and hope, move on in a more complicated future. One of the interesting transitions in this Torah portion has to do with the relationship between orality, the spoken word, and the written word. And I want to read to you a passage where this occurs, chapter 31, verse 9. "Moses wrote down this teaching and gave it to the priests, the sons of Levi, who carried the Ark of the Covenant to all the elders of Israel." Wrote down this teaching, which of course implies that before this moment, the teaching had been delivered orally. And now they're going to write it down. The passage continues. "And Moses instructed them as follows: Every 7th year, the year set for remission at the Feast of Booths, when all Israel comes to appear before the Lord your God in the place he will choose, you shall read this teaching out loud in the presence of all Israel." We have 3 moments of this process. The oral law, the oral delivery, needs to be written down, and what is written down needs to return to oral presentation. Fascinating. We might ask, why does oral delivery require being written down? But why does the written word need to be re-engaged orally? Now, just as an aside, but you'll recognize as the kind of aside I give from time to time, one of Plato's dialogues, the Phaedrus. I wonder if anybody's read the Phaedrus. It's a masterpiece. It deals with love, it deals with rhetoric, and it deals with this question of the relationship between the oral and the written. And Plato talks about the need for both. We need messages to be written. Why? It preserves the message from being lost. It renders a common message for the community. It gives all the individuals of the community a common source around which they can gather themselves. The written word preserves. What is the problem with the written word? First of all, the message is external to those who are learning it. I notice this in myself, maybe you do. When I'm reading something and I want to remember it, I underline it. What this means is it's in the book. Don't worry about it. You can go back to the book. Knowing that I can go back to the book keeps me from trying hard to internalize it so that it lives within me. The reality of a book indulges my laziness so that I don't really have it inside of me. I don't need to make it a part of me. Also, the book is inert and passive. It can't stand up for itself, as we can when we talk in real time to one another. If I say something to you and you misunderstand it or didn't get what you'll ask me and I can clarify it. If I misunderstand what's written in a book, the author's not in the room, the book is inert, it cannot correct me. The book is vulnerable to all kinds of readers, those who are astute and those who are indifferent to its message. I can have a conversation with you. I can say something, you can say something back to me, I can say something back to you. I cannot have a conversation with the book. The written word kills, the oral word keeps the message alive. So that orality must eventuate in something written, but something written has to be brought back to life again through orality. Now think about Judaism. We not only have the written Torah, we have the Oral Torah. Let's take Oral Torah seriously. The Oral Torah is, at every given time and place, a conversation with the book. So that I interpret the book, I interpret it in public. You can say whether or not you think my interpretation is a valid one. The rabbis, recognizing some of the limitations of the written word, which is static and can't on its own deal with the new problems and opportunities of the passage of time. And therefore they develop the notion of the Oral Torah. And they make a fundamental move. The Oral Torah is also revelation. Rabbi Ismar Shorsh, the former chancellor of the Jewish Theological Seminary, has a series of perushim on Torah portions of the week. The name of his book is The Open Canon. The Open Canon means the written word is not the last word. And so what we have here is a fascinating combination of the need for being written and the need for being oral. And when does this take place? At exactly this transitional moment when the people are going into the promised land. So What I'm suggesting is that our Torah portion mirrors the experience that we ourselves are going through now, a transition from one stage to another. Given the recognition that transitions require further thought, sometimes unprecedented moves, so that new challenges can be met with new solutions, which, given the dynamism of a tradition, those new moves in the future may no longer be what we need at that moment. A flexible Torah, nevertheless written down, so I can carry it as the focal point of community down through history. Thank you. We're going to continue now, as we always do at this time in our point in our service, with thoughts about those members of our community, our circle of friends, our family members who are ailing of body, of mind, of spirit. As my hand passes over your section of the congregation, please mention the names of those about whom you are thinking, and then I'm going to read the names of those people who have sent in names for us to read out loud. We think as well on this occasion, Bobby Tuber Davidson, Robbie Elson, Amelia Hegarty, Judy Horvitz, Maddie Jefferson, Alan Lerner, Richard Moore, Betty Pickus, Esther Post, Bob Shippey. Let us join together now in the singing of the Mishaberach prayer. You can find it in your prayer books on page 253.
Source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mikor habracha. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
We turn in our prayer books now to page 282, and as you are able, I invite you to rise for the Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'adei g'dulan li'otzer b'rishit, shelo asonu ki goyeh ha'aratzot, v'lo samanu ki mishpachot ha'adama. V'gor aleinu ki chol amona, v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. We remember as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. We remember.
We continue now in our prayer books on page 289 as we prepare for the recitation of the mourner's Kaddish. The light of life is a finite flame. Like the Shabbat candles, life is kindled, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and with beauty. But soon it fades, its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance, and our life burns down in gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen. Yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and of life. We think now of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. We think especially on this occasion of members of our congregational family whom we lost during this past week, Mark Bauman and Janice Kahn. And we call to mind as well those who have been laid to rest during the past 30 days. Jerry Gilbert, Helene Greenwald, Selma Kaufman, Lillian R. Markowitz, Nicholas Serrano, Marcia L. Unger, Helga M. Gleiser, Jewel Goldstein, Maureen Christel, Brandon Mitchell Starkoff, Maxine M. Cowan Fine, Donald Schlesinger, Eugenia Weinberg. And we take into our hearts those individuals whose yahrzeits occur at this time. Isidore Alexander, Harold Arsham, Ben Bauer, Bernard Benson, Edith Gross Bialowski, Jack Coven, Maury Dannenhirsch, Rosalind Davidson, Jack B. Dworkin, Fanny Farkas, Sadie K. Felber, Joseph Felber, Shirley S. Felber, Anna Polsky-Finn, Leo Friedman, David J. Garson, Donna Marcia Weingarten Goldstein, Molly Goodman, Leonard K. Gross, Samuel Gers, Harry Hart, Virginia H. Heller, Harry Husson, E. S. Bud Kammer, Myrtle I. Cohn, Molly Kaliski, Howard A. Levy, Harlan Hal Pearl, Dr. Herschel Harrison Peveroff, Dr. Leo Rich, Hannah Rice, Arnold J. Rose, Celia Rose, Selma Rose, Max Samuels, Harold S. Schwartz, Dr. Stanley H. Shensa, Leon Sidney Schoen, Edna L. Siegel, Francis L. Spiro, Edward G. Spitz, Saida Seidman Stern, Helen Sternglantz, Nathanalie Biederman Stoyer, Hannah Thurman, Eva Tratner, Bertha Weil, William Wiesenberg, Jacob H. Weider, Florence A. Wolf, Lulu I. Woodle, Sam Zipp, Helene Zucker. If anyone at this point would like to make mention of a loved one or a friend about whom you are thinking, please take this opportunity to do so. zichronam livracha. Their memory will always be our blessing. At this point, before we recite Kaddish together, I'd like to invite those who are observing the Shiva period, the first 7 days after the death of a loved one, if you wish to please rise. Those who are observing the Shloshim period, the first 30 days after the death of a loved one, if you wish, please rise. Those who are observing the anniversary of the death of a loved one, will you please rise? And now, as a caring congregation, we all rise as together we sanctify the name of our God with the words of the Kaddish found in our prayer books on page 294, as we say together, Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayichon v'yomeichon v'chayedechal beit Yisrael, v'agalav izman kari v'yimru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei elmaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpo'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei v'kudashah b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran b'yalma v'yimru amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya v'chayim, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort all the bereaved among us, and let us say together, amen. You may be seated. Well, about this time Friday morning, I begin to think about what I'm going to talk about at this service and prepare for the weekend. And so I turned to my calendar, and lo and behold, most Fridays are like today, one appointment after another, one thing to do after another, and my mind is rooted to my calendar and the events of the day. And until this moment, I haven't had time to step back and think about how blessed I am. The many ways in which some of the things I do, but mostly the things that are done for me by my parents, by my friends, by God. And I think it's important, though I had no time today, to think about our blessings. So let's each of us close our eyes and focus on one wonderful thing that we have in our lives, thing or person. And let's sing the Shehechianu together. We are going to conclude our service with the singing of Adon Olam. I think it's on page 321. It's his.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra. Ki
At the end of the Rosh Hashanah evening service, at this moment of the Kiddush, after we sang the Kiddush and then I had a little sip, I said that nothing tastes as good as Kiddush wine. And when I got back to my desk after the service, somebody had written the following note. If you think that this Kiddush wine is wonderful, we've got some work to do. But I think you'll know what I mean. On some occasions, some things that seem prosaic or less so taste better. It's the occasion. It's not just the substance. And so I said to this person who I saw the next morning, we have some work to do on you. Let's do some the Kiddush.
How good does it taste? So good.
The best. And a blessing over our bounty. Adonai Ozli Amo Yitain, Adonai Yavarech et Amo Shalom. May the Lord give strength to God's people. May the Lord bless all of God's peoples with the blessings of shalom, of peace. Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Gamar Tov. Have an easy fast.
Amen.